Welcome, everybody, to our Chocolatey Coffee Break live stream for November. We run two live streams here every month on the first and third Thursday. This live stream is where we talk about Chocolatey and chat to members of the community in the Chocolatey team. Our other live stream and the first Thursday of the month is where we spotlight chocolate products, recent releases, important features. In the last live stream on the 2nd of November, I hope you were there to see that, we highlighted some of the upcoming functionality in Chocolatey Central Management 0.12.0 release that's coming out soon. So we went over some of the new functionality, some of the deployments, and the new deployment types are coming up on that. So if you haven't seen that, you can catch that on YouTube. In the previous Chocolatey Community Bake live stream, that was on the 19th of October, we did a really great chat with our support manager, Chocolatey support manager, Stephen Valdinger. As I said, you can also check that video on YouTube as well. Today, we're going to talk to another member of the Chocolatey team. We're going to talk to Cory Knox, who is a software engineer here at Chocolatey Software. But before we do that, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Brudith, and I'm the technical engineering manager here at Chocolatey Software. I lead the engineering team that is responsible for the Chocolatey products that you perhaps use today. I'm also joined by my co-host, Gary Ewan-Park. Gary, do you want to introduce yourself?
I can certainly try. My name is Gary Ewan-Park. I am a principal software engineer here at Chocolatey. I have been doing these live streams with Paul now for a while, but I am excited to speak to our guest today. So yeah, looking forward to it.
And before we jump in to chatting with Cory, our guest today, I want to remind everybody that you can see our announcements of all of our Chocolatey content by joining us on Discord, subscribing to us on YouTube, or following us on Twitter or X this week, Blue Sky, Mastodon, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitch. You can find all of the links to all of those places at the bottom of our homepage, chocolatey.org. So let's jump into our chat with Cory. Hey, Cory. Very first question is the obvious one. Tell us a bit about yourself. Where do you come from? What do you do?
So my name is Cory Knox. I'm from the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia in Canada, where I enjoy everything that the Okanagan has for us.
Do we want to let everybody know that you have a dog there today, Cory? That may just interrupt. I think actually we've all got dogs, so they may interrupt the stream. So that's cool.
So Bailey's not in the room with me, so I won't be interrupted by a dog. But others on the stream might be.
My dogs are loud, so even though they're not here, you'll hear them.
Okay, so Cory, you are an IT person, but how did you get in? How did you get into IT? What brought you? Why is the question.
So I've always had an interest in computers from the early days when my dad brought home I think it was a 286 that he brought home, and that was back in the days when you didn't have Windows, but everyone seemed to have a menu shell that you would select menus and you could go into games and stuff, and then kind of once I got into high school in the 90s, when I took Infotech was the name of the course, and we did some programming in there, and from there, I became the family troubleshooter and fixer of all things that plug into walls, and so I went to college for a degree in computer information systems, which was heavily focused on programming, more programming than system administration side of things.
Mm-hmm. So that keeper of all things resonates at the minute in terms of looking after other people's machines. However, I find that I'm now being surpassed by my little people, my children, because at the weekend there, they were fixing their granddad's iPad rather than me. So it's like, it's fine. My job is done. I have done everything I needed here. So it's great. Anyway.
I need to get my kids on that, apparently.
Tell tell people I don't.
One less thing for me to worry about.
Cory, you mentioned that your first computer was a 286.
I think I'm pretty sure it was.
That's very. Nobody else. I could be wrong, but I don't think anybody else in the team has that sort of history, except me and you. Because my first computer, or my first PC, was a 286 as well. And you also mentioned this was before Windows. So what did you use?
I'm not sure what it was. It was like all of the text, and if I'm remembering correctly, which I totally could be wrong, but it was like yellow. It was a yellow box, and then I think it was yellow, and it had like a menu that was like press 1 through 0 to go into games and art, and various things. And then there was always because we learned early on, there was you hit a slash and then you could type something else in, and that's how we got games off the floppy, because the menu didn't include anything from the floppy. And I mean, I don't know any like much about it other than it had a turbo button, and we always had the turbo button turned on. And I've since learned that was the wrong thing to do according to the internet, because apparently having the button turned on actually slowed the processor down. According to the internet, I don't know.
Turbo button always reminded me of the overdrive button you used to get in cars. It was like a trick. Oh, it's going fast. It didn't go any faster, guys. It made you think. I pushed the button and it didn't.
It's like the NOS button in Fast and Furious.
Yeah. So no, that's really interesting that you. So we've got similar histories. I was very surprised at that. As I said, mainly because I'm very old and nobody else has anything like that. So that was good. I used Gem was one of the windowing systems you're talking about, but it didn't have one. It was a very early basic window type system. So it was Gem and various other. Gary just doesn't remember anything.
I'm obviously quite young. I don't recall any of
You're
these.
not quite
so
young.
It's fine. No, I am. I'm obviously quite a youngster here. Just saying.
But, that's really interesting. As I said, I did 26 as well. Awesome. Okay, we're off now. Tangent there, but that's always my favorite question. How did you get into IT? Because usually it goes off into I had this computer and that computer, and I really like the older stuff because I'm old. So just following on for that, so you when you got into IT, at your previous role before Chocolatey, you worked, I suppose, as a system administrator type of role. But you're no longer system administrator. That's not what you do at Chocolatey. So how did you make that leap through to developer, first of all, because it is a bit of a jump from what you were doing, and how has your previous experience in your last role kind of helped you with that?
Yeah, so like as I said, I went to college for computer information systems, which was mostly development focused, and then out of college I ended up just finding a job as a network administrator, and then moved on to another company as service desk and up through the ranks to desktop support and kind of the administration of the desktops. And through all of those roles after college, I was heavily involved in like everything that I did. If I needed to do it more than once or twice, I looked for ways to automate it. In the very early days, that was with VB Script, but then even after, like when I was ending as the network administrator at a fiberglass plant, we had a task. This would have been 2010. We were converting all of our users from first initial last name to first name dot last name, and I didn't want to manually go into Active Directory and do that, so I used PowerShell. I want to say it was still PowerShell version 1, and I used the Quest AD tools to get the Active Directory, and just wrote a PowerShell script, and everything that I've did for automating pretty much from that point was using PowerShell. And so making the leap from system administrator type role to developer, having had that experience with PowerShell, allowed me to it makes that easier to kind of an easier transition, I think, because because PowerShell is like a full programming language, and having all of that experience. And then as for the other question about how's my previous experience benefited me, especially in a role as a developer, I think having had the experience of administering systems and doing like that configuration stuff, it's allowed me to kind of, when thinking of solutions or thinking of what problems could potentially come up, just kind of put that system administrator hat on and remember back to, okay, when I was doing this, what kind of things might I have encountered? And like even I was reminded when I was looking at, I think it was a PowerShell issue. There was one of the developers was looking at something and didn't realize that when you're running in a 32-bit context, that you have different environment variables than 64-bit. But because I'd been doing system administration, I knew very well about what those differences looked like, and it kind of allows me to forego some of that discovery that might otherwise have to take place.
Does it? Is it the reason why you sometimes dig some rabbit holes, though? Because you've got that previous experience where you know, it's not pure developers, experience. You've got other experience as well. You've got that background, network administration, general administration as well, where you can, what's the right term? You kind of go off a little bit sometimes and end up down, which can be a good and a bad thing.
Oh, there's a squirrel. Get it.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely that that is a contributing factor. Partly because when you're doing system administration, oftentimes when you need to fix something, you don't have access to the source code, so you have to get a better understanding of what might have caused it and how you can circumvent that or work around it without just being like, oh well, I just go into the source code and change this line to look at something else. So I think that would definitely is a contributor to those.
The other thing I was intrigued about is when you said PowerShell's up. I think the words was it was kind of development language or programming language, and Gary laughed.
I think it was a smirk, maybe, as opposed to an out and out laugh. But yes, I think there is no. So what I was going to say was that in prior versions of PowerShell, I don't think you could have made that claim because it didn't have some of the things that it has now. So classes, etc. So now that you have that, I think you could class PowerShell as a full-blown language. But I think before it would have been a stretch. But as James is pointing out, I should maybe just back off of this conversation and ask the next question, is what I should do there. So, Cory, Chocolatey, when was it you first found or started using Chocolatey? Now, I know this answer might have some debate as well. So, where did you first learn about and start using Chocolatey?
So, I used to be absolutely certain that it was when I was working at the fiberglass manufacturing plant that I heard about it. And I remember, like, right down to the desk that I'm sure I was sitting at. But the fiberglass manufacturing plant was, I worked there between 2008 and 2010, which predates Chocolatey by just a couple of minutes or years.
Years.
But I'm sure I read about it on the other part I'm sure of is that I read about it on Scott Hanselman's blog. And so I can at least date that to, I think the one that I found when I was Googling this just earlier was a blog post that he wrote called "Is the Windows User Ready for apt-get?" from May 28th, 2013.
Okay.
So it might have been in 2013 that I remembered it. Although, like, even that is, I am sure I was sitting at a wooden desk, and 2013 would have been at the tire company, and we were in the new office, and every single desk in the new office was a white desk. So I've, I don't know why I remember it from being well earlier than it was, but
So at some point in the past, you heard about it.
yeah.
So were you actively using it at that point, or was it just something that you'd heard about and you'd think, "Oh, I'll maybe shelve that for later"? What were you doing with it?
I think I used it, and I had I used it in kind of what's it in like bits and pieces. Like, I'd use it and then I'd kind of forget about it for a bit, and then I went back to using it again, and yeah, it was kind of going between using it and not using it, or using it, forgetting about it for a while, and then running a Choco upgrade and sometimes not having good time when you go that long and try to upgrade everything all at once.
That's fair.
Chris did say that you were sure at least you were on Earth.
I'm pretty sure of that part, at least. Yeah.
Okay. that at least we've narrowed it down a little bit.
I can't even tell you what city I was in, because the fiberglass manufacturer plant was like half an hour to the south, and
But Canada for both.
Definitely Canada, definitely the Okanagan Valley.
Okay, so on Earth, in Canada, we're getting closer. Okay,
yeah,
okay, cool.
Sometime in the last 10 to 15 years.
So that's okay. So we're narrowing it down then. All right. So moving on to the next question. Again, a kind of common question we ask everybody that comes on. Have you been involved with the chocolate community, and how?
Oh, and how? But the one you gave me was just a yes or no question. I was just going to answer yes, and we were going to carry on. Because...
no, we need a bit of flesh that out a little bit, Cory. I think flesh it. Give it some context. Give it some. That's probably a media word for it, but yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I have a couple of packages that I maintain. Trying to which one? There's I maintain the with a WES term, which is a terminal program for Windows and Mac and others. I think it's written in Rust, and then I also maintain the GLab package, which is the GitLab CLI tool. And then I also contribute to other packages as I find ways to help improve some of them. Which actually reminds me, I have a PR up I don't have a PR up for it yet. I have the change done for the Git Kraken package. I should get that package up or that PR up.
I saw someone mentioning that in an issue today, and I got the impression it was only available in the Windows store now. So it's still available as a separate installer.
Git Kraken it's a separate.
Okay. I might have misread it, misunderstood it. Cool. Okay.
So you're a package maintainer. You're involved in the community repository, chocolate community from that point of view. But do you remember when you made your first contribution? So was that you being a package maintainer in its own right, or were you getting involved in the community discussions, issues, etc.? When or so? This could be an open-ended question based on when you first heard about Chocolatey. But when do you think you made your first community contribution? Do you remember?
And when you on Earth and in Canada when you did that? So.
I think my first community contribution would have come in in 2020, I think. And I had written down that my first code contribution that I remember was to the Choco help command. And that would have been I think it's in 2020 when I opened the PR for that. But even getting into being a package maintainer, I created a few packages that I didn't mention earlier in 2020. I mostly didn't mention them because I picked them up off of the Chocolatey Packages request for packages. And they were for one of the reasons that I picked the ones I did was that they haven't had a release in quite a while. So it was like, well, I can pick this up, I can push a package up, and then I don't really have to do anything with it because there's no new versions coming out.
Love it.
And I'm pretty sure that was in around 2020 as well.
Good.
So I'm going to actually, you talked about maintaining packages and excuse me, we're kind of involved, or you're involved, and we're all involved in the Chocolatey Community Chocolatey Packages repository as well. So I was going to pop that onto the screen, the URL for that, if anybody's interested in becoming involved in that, because it's a community-based repository of Chocolatey packages. I think there's about 400 and something on there just now. So yeah, it'd be good.
The link you put up is to CCR, not the.
So it is.
GitHub
I'm glad
repository.
someone's on the ball here today.
Just checking.
I've put the wrong link up. And I bet actually looking through it, we don't even have a link to that repository. Well, do you know what's when we edit this? Oh, this is live, isn't it?
No, it is. It's gone. That
Okay.
horse is bolted.
It's actually in it's actually not here either at github.com/chocolate. If you put a dash community onto the end of that, I don't have the link for that. I'm going to type one up. Then you'll be able to go there and find. It's all sorts of complicated. In fact, ignore me. I'll just hide. So next question.
Stevie's put a link into the chat. You could
amazing.
There we go.
Thank you, Stevie.
Stevie is on the ball.
How about I do something then? While we wait, does anybody know a song or a joke, and I could just add one in?
Oh, I've got lots of jokes, Paul. I'm not sure if they're suitable for the audience, but
about a rabbit on a train. I think. Did you hear that one? Or it was bees.
It was a bee. It was a bee. It was a bee. Yeah.
Rabbits have two bees in it, so I was close.
All right. So while Paul is typing, here he goes. Let's check. Has he got any typos? No.
No.
I think we're okay. Well done,
Thanks,
Paul.
Stevie, for that. I just copied and pasted what Stevie put and took off the bit at the beginning and put it on there. So yeah, we'll edit that out. This will be seamless. We'll all look like superstars.
It's not actually my question. I was going to ask a question, but it's not my turn. So.
No, but is it not? But I was just going to mention that because Cory had mentioned packages, and I thought, well, get people involved. That was about 20 minutes ago. I don't know if anybody stuck about.
That's now
that 2 people, and that's Stevie and James. 6 degrees of separation. So let's take that out. So seamless cut over. So Cory, so you're involved in the Chocolatey Community Chocolatey Packages repository. A link on the screen. Are you involved in any other communities?
I am.
Got a link on the screen too.
Fairly involved in the PowerShell community, although maybe not as much as I used to be. In the Discord and the Slack there, as well as years ago, I spent a fair amount of time in the VS Code PowerShell repository on GitHub in helping triage issues, reproduce them, as well as submitting a few PRs for issues that actually, because I had a coworker come to it using ISE, and I said, why aren't you using VS Code? And he said, well, ISE has this, which was the show command, the command pane on the right. And so I started working on and added at least a partial implementation of the similar thing to VS Code, all because a coworker said that it was missing. And
all I had was rabbit hole again. Somebody said something. Okay.
So you've been at Chocolate a little while now as a gainfully employed software developer. So with that experience in mind and usage of Chocolatey beforehand, what is the one feature of Chocolatey that you feel is missing and that you would like to see implemented?
So I thought about this one for a bit, and I was thinking, and it occurred to me, and it's that dash limit dash outputs, or dash output no s, doesn't have any headers on it, and well, so coincidentally, there's a PR up to add headers to it. But the reason, like the reason that I think it's missing and is needed is particularly, I think it's if you do Choco source dash limit dash output, there's in a lot of the sources there's empty ones, but you have no idea what is supposed to go in there unless you actually look at the source code.
Yes.
And so having headers and having headers that are also delimited with that with the pipe symbol allows you to very easily take the Chocolatey command, and since you're running it in PowerShell, because why would you use any shell that's not PowerShell? You can pipe it to convert from CSV, which stands for character separated values, not comma. Although
that's a stretch. That's a stretch.
Well,
Don't come to me with that. No.
Because you can convert from CSV and then you give it the dash character parameter, and you can tell it to separate them based on the pipe, and then because if it has headers, those headers automatically become the property names in the resulting object that PowerShell returns to you. So you don't have to guess at what the columns are. I know a number of times, because usually I'll do convert to CSV and then I pipe it to, and then I do dash headers, and you have to give it an array of what the headers are. And usually I'll do, for like source, I'll do like, I think it's name, source location, unknown to, and
yes,
just for the ones that I don't know. And so having the headers in there, as I mentioned, like there is a PR up for it, but that also needs to actually be rebased and fixed because of the major uplift to .NET 4.8 and the new Git library that we did, because a number of them changed, as well as there's new commands that aren't in that PR. But
yeah. So part of
that I'd love to see added.
So part of that is that we would need to do it everywhere, so we're consistent. So all the commands where -r or -- limit output does that, we would need to provide that across all of them. But the bigger issue is that the addition of that is a breaking change. So we can't just put it in, because anyone who for years has been parsing just the output from -r, their code would be broken. So what we need to do with that, I can't remember if your PR does this, but what we would need to do would be to put that behind a feature flag. So by default, it would be off. But then if you opt in with that feature flag, you would get that headers in the -r output and be able to do the convert from CSV. So no, I think I think it would be I think it's a good addition. I think it's a good idea, so that we have that information available. But we would need to do it behind the feature flag. So I thought it was based on. So you could do it that way as well, James.
Yeah.
So that would be the other way. So normally we have a feature flag, but also an option that you could pass in. But either way, it would be off by default. It wouldn't do it by default. Yeah.
I think if I recall, and I mean, I haven't looked at the PR in a long time, but if I recall, I what James is saying is what I had done was with a -- headers, as well as I think I added a feature.
Okay.
I think or at least that was my planning, to at least get to that point, so that if you wanted it on all the time, you could turn it on, but by default it wouldn't be on, and you also didn't didn't need to turn the feature on, like similar to how you can turn on allow global confirmation to not have to pass -y every time.
Yes.
To not have to pass -- headers every time would be.
Now, it is one of those things that ultimately, a few versions down the line, it might be something that's on by default because we'll toggle the default feature flag to be on in a breaking change version.
You could also have it on by default in those versions if you're running the PowerShell shell. You know, Cory has said, why would you not run the PowerShell shell? Well, some people use non-Microsoft operating systems, for example, and don't have the PowerShell shell there. Maybe using Bash, for example.
I use PowerShell on my Mac all the time.
But you know, you're weird.
Yeah.
But but no, there's people who don't. There's people that still use cmd.exe, and if that works for them, that's cool. You know, that's we should fit in with what the way customers want to work, their workflow, the way they're using the tools. But yeah, we could detect that PowerShell's running, and then automatically enable that a few versions down the line. Not now. If you're using limit output, we could add on those headers for PowerShell and maybe make things a bit better. But there's things we can do, is what I was trying to say. Okay, we're actually bang on time just about. So I want to ask the next question. I also want to point out that I'm actually not cooking here. I'm very red in the camera. I'm not at gas mark 5 and slowly baking. So how from your taking your experience in your previous role as well, how do you see Chocolatey benefiting customers? Because you can see how Chocolatey would benefit you when you were in that previous position.
And I actually just encountered this just the other night. I forgot just how painful installing a software without Chocolatey was until I upgraded my mom's laptop to have an SSD, and I needed to reinstall her embroidery software. And it turns out to install that, you run an installer that is an HTML application, and then there's about like 6 or 7 different components that you have to click one by one to install. And it reminded me of the pain of these manual installations, particularly when you get like the various different installers like iKnowSetup and is it Nullsoft and MSIs, and they all seem to have a different incantation for silent installs. And the power that's in Chocolatey, in particular, the for business, that you can give it those executable, like those installers, and it can be pretty good at figuring out what those silent installs are, or those silent flags are, so you don't have to know the incantation, and to be able to, in the case of my mom's embroidery software, like if I could have done Choco install and then just list off the different components that it used, would have been really nice, because there was a bunch of cursing, especially since the installer was from, I think, 2015, so it didn't have fun with Windows 10, and I had to go hunting for stuff.
Agreed. Okay, can you tell us what you're working on just now, at a high level? What is it you're currently working
on? Would you believe time zones?
Cory is our in-house time zone expert. If you didn't know, so
particularly on Colombian time zones, I believe.
Colombian
time zone expert. So
recently it has been time zones within the Chocolatey Central Management, and finding the fun that is time zones, and also in particular that some time zones observe daylight savings time, some don't. They all seem to do them at different times, which is really fun. And then also, what I've been working on is a tool called Time Stamper, and this is like outside of what I'm doing with Chocolatey, but I used it. I tried out a terminal called WinTerm at one point, and it had this feature where each line it would stamp with the time that line was generated, and I ran ran Test Kitchen or Vagrant things all the time that it'll start doing something and it can take 5, 10, 15 minutes. But without knowing when the line came up that said, hey, I'm starting this process, you have no idea if it's been sitting there for an hour or whatnot. So this time stamper is just a utility that you can wrap around whatever command it is you're trying to run. And it will, before anything is output to the terminal, it will stamp the time that was generated so that you can see it, and it'll do it for both the standard output and the standard error, so that and so those are kind of the two things I've been working on. One in my work time, and then the other one, Time Stamper, is in the evenings, because I found it very, very helpful when I had a PowerShell function that did it, but wasn't quite there. So I converted it to C#.
Cool.
You have children, Cory, do you not?
I do.
So how do you have evenings?
They've gotten older, so they don't.
Okay, right. Okay.
Although I also don't have as many as I used to, as I find out when my kids says, "Hey, can you drive me around town?" they're kind of at that age where they can be left alone and they don't need me, but also not quite at the age where they can get themselves places.
Yeah.
So I mean, they can get themselves places, but it's the after dark or long distances that they can't really do. So my evenings sometimes get eaten up with going and picking up my child and her 3 friends and driving them all home.
Taxi dad.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question in this section, our main questions. Where do you see Chocolatey products in the future? Just the products, not you. Just the, because we come with you later on. Just the product.
Where do I see it? I'm not I'm not really sure. Like I see the how well they help in the in corporate environments and in enterprises, and seeing what we're working on in with central management even more so, I think, because but like before I came to Chocolatey, it was I really only knew the open source side, and I saw like great benefit in it there. But with the functionality that is in Chocolatey for Business and in the central management, I think there's huge potentials for companies to save a huge amount of time and in their package management, because otherwise it's a pain.
What are you thinking that you're working on Chocolatey Central Management just now? And we saw in the last live stream that we did on the 2nd of November that we looked at some of the features that are coming up in Chocolatey Central Management. Have you got any thoughts on how you think those will be received by customers and how they would benefit from that?
I think they'll like them. In particular, like when I put my when we were talking about some of them, and I was thinking back to what I did at the at my former employment at the tire company. We used Microsoft's SCCM for deploying software, and we had like all sorts of tricks to get to install like just a single piece of software on a single computer, and the ability in Chocolatey Central Management to select a computer and say, I want to send a deployment to this, and have that deployment be able to issue any PowerShell commands and install the software, and then have it just kind of do it, I think is something that I would have loved to have in where I was, because the way we were doing it was we basically had a collection for every single piece of software that we needed, and when we had new software, we had to go and create this new collection, and we had to kind of maintain, add the computers into that collection, but then sometimes we'd have to take them out of make sure we're taking them out of the collection so that they don't get upgrades that they're not supposed to get. But the addition of the automatic deployments is
I think when we were talking about the live stream on the 2nd of November, and we talked about the features, and I was speaking to Gary just earlier on today. We're speaking because I've been off, I'm just back today from holiday. We were speaking about what's been going on. I'm excited to share what's going on with Chocolatey Central Management, and Gary, isn't it? All of the team, yourself, Steph, Rain, and Kim as well, are been developing the product, and obviously the wider team as well with our support team and our operations teams. But yeah, anyway, we're talking about Chocolatey Central Management now, and it's you we're here to talk about, Cory, not Chocolatey Central Management. So let's skip on. What have we got left? We have 17 minutes left, so I think we'll be able to get this in. So these are common questions. The next set of questions, common questions we ask everybody, and it's in honor of Richard Campbell, who does Run As Radio, and he asked us similar questions. I thought, great idea. So here we go. We've got that there. So very first one is, what is your favorite coding language and why? I think we know the answer to this, but we're going to ask anyway.
Well, clearly it's Perl. It's not Perl, but it does have all the same letters that Perl has, and a few more. It's PowerShell, because it allows you to just do so much in such a short period of time, and without having to kind of work so hard. Like, for instance, I wrote a module years ago for interacting with CUCM, which is Cisco Unified Communications Manager, I think, or Call Manager. It's their voice over IP system. And at one point I thought, I could probably make this more efficient if I wrote it in C# instead of PowerShell. So I started looking at how to do it, and it turns out that to do it in PowerShell, I just did invoke REST method dash, I think it was dash body, and I could give it a hash table that was the body, and it would send it to the API. To do that same thing in C#, to send a web request with a body, you have to spin up you have to create a stream and send the stream and manage all of that stuff. So I went from what was a single line of code that just did it and got me the result to like 10 to 15 lines, and then I still had to do stuff with the results. And so in that case, I decided that, I'm going to stick with the PowerShell way of doing it, just because everything is an object there. You can create your own new objects kind of on the fly, and without having to create a class in C#.
That's actually really similar to the way Gary writes that kind of PowerShell as well, except he does the stream bit and then just puts it in a PowerShell script. So he's actually got the C# there and puts it into PowerShell rather than using the PowerShell method.
Sure.
Gary,
it's the way forward. It's the way forward.
It's uncompiled C#.
Yeah. That's right.
That's
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving on. So while you're doing all this Perl coding, what is your favorite IDE, and what do you love or hate about it?
I just realized that said IDE, and so it's not an editor. So it's
I
an
can
only
IDE
say Visual Studio.
Editor. It's pick your poison. Pick your poison.
I find that I use Visual Studio when I'm working in C# things, in Visual Studio Code for pretty much everything else. Although I do have a love-hate relationship with Vim and NeoVim. I like how efficient I can be with them, but the hate part is how cumbersome it is to get LSPs running in them. That's language server protocols, which is what Visual Studio Code and I think Visual Studio allows them to do their IntelliSense, and their a lot of the linting is done with these LSPs, and getting them working in the Vim context isn't so good. So it's a lot of Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code. And do I love it or hate it? Yes. there are little things in both of them that I find cumbersome, but also they're really good at what they're doing, and when you end up going and using something else, I oftentimes find that that I don't realize how much I like the things that they do until I don't have them.
Sure.
In particular, I think IntelliSense is a huge one, because when I recently switched which system I was doing development on, and I got into fresh Visual Studio, and there was no IntelliSense automatic IntelliSense, and I was lost for 10 or 15 minutes until I figured out how to turn that back on.
But surely proper developers don't need IntelliSense. They just know the parameters or the options or the switches or whatever you want, arguments, and you just know these. So I mean,
I use Notepad. I mean, I don't know what
that's
Not
I
even
actually
Notepad
use my
plus.
Remarkable. I code on my Remarkable. That's how good I am. I just write it. So
I used to code on pen and paper, and then I found tools that made me more efficient and faster. And with the IntelliSense, a lot of times it's not even that I don't know what it is. It's that I can type. I just start typing a couple of the letters, or with method names, because they're Pascal case. If you just type the capital letters, IntelliSense will pick those ones out, and it'll be the first one in your list.
But surely that's the robots taking over and doing your job for you. I mean, I am actually joking, by the way. But I used to code by writing with bits of charcoal on cave walls. So that's how I am. What have we got? We've got 10 minutes left, so let's move on. Because the next question is actually the most important question in this entire stream. And it's the rest of it's just fluff till here. That's basically it. That's all this says. So this says, as I said, the most important question. Oh, it's not zoomed in. Let me try and zoom it in.
It was zoomed in earlier.
It was zoomed in earlier. That doesn't. Why is it not? I wonder if you can see my cursor. Because maybe it's.
No.
That's what it is. Let me go and share that again. But this is actually, we don't have to share it.
I see the pointer cursor over the word present is what I see, I think.
Oh, yes, it's stuck. Okay. It's stuck. So we shared it earlier on, and then, it's fine. We don't, hopefully everybody can still make that out. But the most important part of this is that this is Gary's wrong pronunciation of N.U.P.K.G, Board of Shame. And as you can see, there are different options on there. You've got the very first one, which is, do you pronounce it N.U.P.K.G? And we're not allowed to talk about who pronounces it N.U.P.K.G because it's not important. N.U.P.K.G is the next one. Do you call it N.U.K.G? There's only one person that calls it N.U.K.G, and I don't think they've been on the stream. No, they haven't. So maybe we'll get them on the stream just to fill that column up. And because you're Canadian, Cory, we made the final column be A. Because Canadians, apparently that's what Canadians say all the time. I don't know. I just watch TV, and that's what the TV says. It must be right. So you're over in the A category at the moment, mainly because you're Canadian, as I said. So the question is, which column should you be in? How do you pronounce N.U.P.K.G?
Well, so being Canadian, I know that it actually stands for a N.U.P. kilogram. So I would normally say N.U.P.K.G.
That's we don't have a column for that.
No,
That's going to completely mess up
to
my
be
chat
fair,
room.
a lot of it depends on the context that I'm speaking in. Normally, it is N.U.P.K.G. that I say, but if I am, depending on
just stop
the
there, Cory.
scenario,
Just stop there. It's enough. Just stop.
in casual conversation, it is normally N.U.P.K.G. If there's need where I need to actually say it a different way, and especially if I'm working off a script, I will spell it out the other way to say it, and won't even just like I won't put N.U.P.K.G. I'll put like new package, and then I'll bold it and make it big so that I force myself to say it differently. But I would definitely belong in the first column.
Okay, so I have dragged you in the first column, but because this isn't updating,
No,
I
need proof,
so,
Paul. I need
well,
proof.
okay.
No, I need proof.
Okay, let's do that then, and then let's do this, and then it'll be a while. Hold on. Okay, allow. Yep, and then we've got to do that, and then we've got to.
So I had to take a
There you
screenshot
go.
of Stevie's comment because
I saw that.
There you
I
go.
saw that.
Oh, actually, sorry.
Be keeping an eye on the mail now.
That should. Oh, it's not made it any. I see it. I know what it is. Sorry, I'm not looking at the full thing. Right. Okay, that makes sense. So if we do that, that's still not sharing the bottom.
Hey, look! From what I can see, we now have more people in the N.U.P.K.G.
I see that
column
too.
right here
No,
than we do in
no.
the new package
That's it.
column. See, because it just
Okay.
ends at Paul in the new package column.
That's what we're doing there. Okay, so if
That's right.
why this isn't actually showing what's live. I don't know what's
No, it looks
going on.
live to me.
It's not actually live. It's not. I'm moving stuff about. It's not doing it. Anyway, so you're in the correct column. No, there's not more people in the new package column. Sorry, the N.U.P.K.G. column isn't new. We're still winning. Not that it's a competition.
So what is the score? What is the score there, Paul? What,
It's 6 who say new package, and 5 who say N.U.P.K.G.
So we just take your vote out because it doesn't count, and it's a draw.
It's not competition, Gary. It's not competition. So that's
not what I was told.
No, you were also told to say new package, and you never. So we're not. Just no.
No, I did say new package.
This is all ruined. It's all ruined.
Who's our next guest, Paul? Who we get on next?
Melody, my wife, is coming on, and she knows to pronounce it new package. So
don't you worry. I'll speak to Melody. Don't you worry. I'll sort it.
No, so this isn't going the way it was intended. I'm beginning to what? Maybe we should just do an end of year count on it at the end of the year, because we're doing another live stream the 14th of December. That's going to be our final wrap up for the year. Maybe we should stop doing this after that, because we've done it long enough, I think. And then what we should do is just tally up and then just decide who wins from there.
Okay.
Oh, there's no more. So that means I would win. Not that it's a competition.
No, it's a competition.
But
no, absolutely.
yeah, so anyway, just moving swiftly on. So we've got 5 minutes left. And the next question is, we've actually got 4 questions left. So
I'm up next, I think. What is your favourite chocolatey biscuit and/or cookie?
I tried to find one this morning because I tried to find one, but I totally forgot until this morning. It's crunchy. It's a chocolate bar with honeycomb toffee.
Another one you're talking
in the center. It's apparently sponge toffee. It's called sponge toffee in Canada and cinder toffee in the UK, according to Wikipedia.
A crunchy ball. You've heard of a crunchy.
Crunchy doesn't have caramel in it.
It's honey.
It's honeycomb.
Toffee.
It doesn't have toffee in it. It's just chocolate with chocolate covered honeycomb. But Cory's saying it's got toffee in it. So
it's called honeycomb toffee, apparently, but it's Wikipedia did also say in the UK it's just called it's sometimes just referred to as honeycomb, and I think hokey pokeys for Josh.
Okay, is that considered a biscuit or a cookie in Canada?
Oh, I guess it's not it's a chocolate bar.
So you said the wrong thing for N.U.P.K.G, right?
Yeah.
And now you're saying that I don't know, man. You do all this.
It would be
and then
We did ginger molasses cookies with chocolate chunks from Gumtree Catering, which is a company that's local to here that used to do the food at the last place I worked.
There you go.
If you're going to a partial conference potentially, Cory, you've put in talks for that. So I think you need to bring a box of those to partial conference.
The ginger
molasses with chocolate chunks. Yeah, they sound amazing.
They are.
Well, there we go then. Practice.
I have to see if,
and that'll make me
can...
up for you saying the wrong thing with the N.U.P.K.G stuff.
Jeez.
So
I'm gonna have to figure out where I can even get them.
Well, you knew the name of the company.
Well, yeah, but
what?
They're not providing the food service where they used to, but they do have another spot. Actually, a couple other spots, so I can probably go check there.
Maybe
or I can just call the owner because I know her.
That works.
That would solve it. Yeah, that would
call it a favor.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Okay, wrapping up questions. We've got 5 minutes for these. What's your favourite memory regarding Chocolatey? For example, meeting folks in person for the first time, attending a conference, saying N.U.P.K.G wrong, that kind of thing.
It'd probably be the getting to meet. Well, it's getting to meet people for the first time and attending the conference for the first time was PowerShell Summit in April. Getting to meet most of the team and a lot of people from the PowerShell community that I consider really close friends that I'd never met in person. And getting to finally meet Adil, even though I've been to the city he claims he lives in multiple times, and he's never been there when I was there. So,
did you pronounce N.U.P.K.G wrong to him as well? Because maybe that's what it was.
No, I pronounced it the way he wanted me to pronounce it because it was in the script and it was in big and bold and.
Oh, was it N.U.P.K.G?
It was.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
What is the one thing you're most proud of at Chocolatey, Cory? If you can narrow it down.
I think the work that I've done in getting our tests in partly in Test Kitchen, but also getting the ability for those without Test Kitchen to be able to run the end-to-end pester tests that we have without having to do all of the incantations that Test Kitchen requires. It still requires you to have Vagrant, but it's still easier than the Test Kitchen stuff. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair to say that you have taken the lead on that area of things. So yeah, no, absolutely. You're rightfully proud of all of that work, yes.
Particularly when it's found issues that we didn't before we shipped.
Correct.
Because of the way that it ran things because we tested in the one case that I can think of, we tested all doing it manually, and then Test Kitchen ran it and said no, that didn't work, and turned out that because of the way that it worked,
the robots are just better all round, Cory, than all of them. Okay, final question. What does the future look like for Chocolatey Software, the products in you? So that was the you thing that I was talking about earlier on that we were going to talk about. This is all thought about.
I think I'm going to borrow from what Stevie said last month, and I don't foresee myself going anywhere other than Chocolatey Software because I thoroughly enjoy it here. Although who knows, because the future is the future. Because but I do see, like as I mentioned earlier about central management, like I see it being really, really powerful and helpful in the enterprises and stuff. And for myself, continuing to get to work on these cool features and bring them to people to help make their administration easier.
Awesome. There was a quick comment from James in the chat. I just wanted to address it right now. That's not how I work, James. Okay. If Cory's end of year review is bleak, then it's down to Cory. It's not anything to do with what he said here today. I promise you that. Okay. Honest.
But next year's one, just wait. That's all.
Picking the wrong side on a live stream is not grounds for a bleak end of year review at all. So, okay.
I'm going to have to get this recording before Paul has a chance to edit that part out, aren't I?
Why is that not available via YouTube, Paul? I don't know. It's the algorithm. It's just the algorithm's the answer to everything. It's just the algorithm.
It's like those crime shows. The cameras suddenly weren't working at that time. We don't know why.
Yeah, the batteries are these things happen. Okay, so we're actually 3 minutes over. So I just want to say thank you, Cory, for joining us on today's live stream. Joking aside, we really appreciate you coming on and talking to us about who you are and what you've done at Chocolatey. I also want to thank Gary for co-hosting today, and he's still not winning, but it's not about points, it's not about prizes, it's not competition. Okay.
I heard Manfred wants to change his vote. So I mean, is that doable? We could do that.
Unfortunately, well, you saw it was frozen. I can't do anything with the board now. I showed you. It's not. It's the internet gods. There's nothing I can do. But thank you to everybody watching this day. Really appreciate that. You can see the announcements for all of our Chocolatey content, and just not if Gary wins the not as competition. Anyway, forget that one. For all of our Chocolatey content, join us on Discord, subscribing to us on YouTube, or following us on Twitter or X, Blue Sky, Mastodon, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitch. We're on all the things. You can find all of those links at the bottom of our homepage, chocolatey.org. Our next live stream will be a Christmas wrap-up of the year on the 14th of December. There's no more votes on the how to pronounce N.U.P.K.G. Pronunciation Board of Shame. So unfortunately, we'll find out. We'll find out who's the winner, but it's not competition. So we hope to see you then anyway. So take care. Thanks for joining us today. And bye-bye.
Bye-bye.